Hello everyone, good morning. I want to share with you 3 ways to root bushes or hardwood flowers, with hardwood stems. It's actually quite easy, and I already have a video about the roses. So that's the one method. You can go and take a look at my video. This rose I rooted, can you imagine? Just the past autumn I put the cuttings into the ground directly. So this is the one method. You need cuttings from that year. In the autumn these cuttings are taken and you have to put them in the ground. Like I said, watch my video about the roses and you are going to see details on how exactly I do my mistakes I did before in the past. There's a lot of watering here that is needed. Actually all methods need a lot of watering, so that's a step that you might not be making good enough, and that's where you might be failing if you're failing. So pay attention, make sure your soil is constantly wet. Even now that she already rooted this beauty, I am watering her very well because that's her first year. I have another one I'm going to show you in a moment. She has her second year with me, and the same method, autumn cuttings, and I put a plastic bottle on top. I'm going to show you what type of plastic bottle I use and how exactly. And these root quite successfully. Now I'm gonna show you the second method. Now we're gonna move on to the next one. Now for the next method you need to take cuttings in the early summer. We are middle of June now and I already have some put in the ground. So you're looking for fresh cuttings. You see greens, they're very green, these cuttings. They are this year's growth, but they're already strong enough. You don't want them too small. Even though in some plants it works also if they're small. I will show you one plant in another area. Now this is a hydrangea, and you can see that's a cutting from this year's growth. It's still very green, but it's thick enough. It's almost as thick as my finger, my pinky perhaps. And she's already showing new growth. As a matter of fact, there was another one next to her here. I just put some rose cuttings this morning, also fresh. Let's see. With the roses I have better success in the autumn, but anything else that shapes a bush or tree, the success rate in the late spring, early summer is very high. So the other cutting that I took out yesterday, I just didn't show it to you because I didn't decide yet to make a video, but it was full of roots already, and you can tell this one is rooted as well because this is a brand new growth. It's very, very, very fresh. And if I shake it like this, she's already very stable in the ground. Now you want to choose a big bottle so that they have enough space. The bottle is to preserve humidity around the cuttings. And you want to put them in an area which is not directly lit by the sun, especially in the hottest time of the day, because the sun will scorch and it will burn the newly forming plant very quickly, and you're not gonna have success. Now here is the northern part, the northern side of my fence here. It's a part of the fence, and there is some sun coming in the afternoon, but it's not that strong, and because it's coming from the sides and I have some other plants protecting, it is just perfect enough to give enough warmth, because it needs a lot of warmth for the rooting to happen, to be successful. I don't use any rooting hormone. You can choose to use, but to be honest, I don't see much of a difference. So I just take my cuttings and I put them in the ground directly. I also make sure that the earth where I'm gonna put them is not like super hard. Here we always mulch in the summer a lot with freshly cut grass, and this decomposes eventually and the earth becomes very nice. I have here a bunch of other cuttings, and they've been here for a while. Now, as you can see on the hydrangea, I didn't cut any of the leaves. It had these 4 leaves here, and this is new growth like I told you. But here I have some viburnum cuttings, and that's Lonicera frangitissima, I think is called. I just broke this from my plant, so I decided to put it here. I think they need a little bit of watering, even though I water every single day, but sometimes in the summer you will need to do that 2 times a day. It's quite of a babysitting, but it is worth it, trust me. These have been in the ground for about 2 weeks now, and as you can see, there's no rotting happening, because usually this is where we fail. The cuttings start to rot and there's no results, and it's a pity. We put so much hope and you know, work and all this our time, and at the end there's no result. So I don't have new growth yet on these. 2 weeks is still a little bit early. We will be waiting to see some new growth starting to appear. I've taken all the leaves except I leave 2 at the top only, and I even cut them in half just to give them, you know, some strength from the light as well. The idea is to put nodes underneath. So my preferred cuttings are ones which I snip off directly from the stem. As you can see, this is not even cut, but I just pulled it, and around this node area here, it's very good to form new roots. This is the best success I've had, even though because my stem was very long and I cut it in several places. I'm going to be sending these to a friend of mine, so she will cut it even further here, and she will bury this first node on the ground. Preferably both of these will be in the soil, and around the nodes will be the area where the new roots will start coming. Now this is pretty much for the second method. Like I said again, lots of water, protect from the sun. If you need, give a little bit of shading. There's a lot of materials on the market that you can put on top of your bottles to provide some shade. You don't need to, you know, to put the bottles very hard in the ground. They are just slightly there so that they provide humidity. But a bigger bottle, like I already said, is much better because it As you can see, there's the vapors here. It gives more space to the plant, and you're gonna have better results with it. I will show you a couple of other smaller cuttings like this, spring ones, which I think already rooted. For the one I'm absolutely sure it did already, so I even took off the bottle. And we will move on to the third way. Now it's gonna be a little bit more difficult to show you this one, but that's a jasmine plant I've been rooting here. And check this out. There's already new growth. It's very fresh. If you try to root jasmine, you will know that this probably already rooted, because once you put the cutting in the ground at the beginning, it's looking very very sad, to be honest. As this one, if you can already see, there's fresh new growth, fresh new leaves, and I'm very happy about this result, because I want all this area here to get covered eventually with it. It will crawl, and it will provide a nice covered area. Now that's another type of jasmine, and as you can tell, it's looking totally different than the other one. This one is put later in the ground and still didn't root for sure, because like I told you, it looks a little bit sad. You see? There's not new growth yet, but it's starting to look perkier and better every single day, so I am hoping that within a month I'm gonna have great results here as well. And that's a garden fuchsia called resistant, which has been rooted from the most gentle cuttings early in the spring. A friend of mine sent them to me. I mean, it was not that early, it was already starting to get warm. I also had a bottle on top, which I literally removed 2 days ago. She's doing just fine without it now. I've been testing, and she's looking gorgeous. There's a lot of new growth. I'm very pleased. I have another one here with autumn cuttings in the ground, and it still is not performing as good as this one. So especially for fuchsia, I definitely prefer and recommend the spring method with the fresh green cuttings. But again, lots of watering, protection, and for sure take off the cap here, because in the spring it's already warm. We don't need the cap, because you want to do this when it's already starting to become warm. Rooting needs nice temperatures, humidity, and lots of love. And now I want to show you just a little bit, a pinch of my garden. There's a lot of flowers, I'm waiting, but we're moving towards the third method. So here, the third method is on this viburnum tree or bush, depends how you shape it. I'm doing this for a friend of mine, and I think this method is called like air layering or something like this. You can technically bury part of the shoots that are coming from the ground. You can put them on the side and bury them in the ground. They will root just as fine as well without detaching them from the tree or the bush. Or you can make something like this. It's very difficult to show you because there's a lot of leaves, but I literally took the ending of a plastic bottle. I peeled a little bit from the bark, about 1 or 2 centimeters, very carefully, just the upper layer you want to peel, and around it I installed this piece of plastic bottle. As you can see, I improvised a lot. I closed from the one side with tape, And from the other side I also close with tape, and there's soil inside. And I hope I can show you, but do you see these white here? I'm gonna put a picture here because it shows better. My camera doesn't focus but very well, but I think you can see these two white thick type of strings. These are roots already forming. I put this about 1, maybe 2 months ago, perhaps 1.5, and it was much easier, of course, because as you can see, this is a hardwood branch I chose here. If you're doing this method, it's better on a hardwood branch, or just put it later on in the season when the green ones are already to start to become more hardwood. These ones here, for example, are not ready yet for such a method, in my opinion. They might, but you will have bigger chances of rotting, perhaps. As on the hardwood, there is no problem whatsoever. And you just have to make sure, in this case, that you're watering your plant well. Here you go, now you can see it better. These two strings here are roots, because there's a lot of small greens. I used soil from my garden where is good enough. You also want to make sure you use loose soil, which is easy for the roots to move around. And I chose see-through so that I can see when we already have new roots. Now the trickiest part here is to keep this installation shaded. In my case, it's very easy. You cannot even see it through the branches when you're looking at the tree like this. So I'm using the natural foliage of the tree to do that, but I was thinking to also do the same with this rose here, because it's very fragrant. This is a big purple variety, and I use this rose usually to make syrups, confitures and things like this. I just trimmed it in the morning to stimulate it for new growth now, for second blooms. But this is the southern part of the wall. It's the same wall where we have the hydrangea on the other side and the other cuttings. And because it's on the southern part, there's not too much sun right now. But in about an hour or so, here will become super sunny. And it will be like this until the end of the day. It's very hot. And I don't really have a way here to protect if I put the same type of method to root. I don't really have a way to shade it, or even if I do, it's not gonna look very pretty. So I think I'm gonna be opting for fresh cuttings, which the ones I took from here, I decided to put them for rooting now to try. Maybe they will root, maybe not, we will see. With roses, like I said earlier, I have better success with autumn cuttings. I don't know what is the reason. Perhaps they rot much easier, the fresh ones, or if they're too fresh. So they probably have to be something like this, like semi-green, semi-hardwood, already starting to become harder but not too fresh. Otherwise they really rot very easy in the ground. And it's pretty much as easy as that. I'm really having fun trying all these methods. I hope you do as well. I might try the air method on this mini rose, because it's like a huge bush here, and it's very compact, and if I put this type of installation somewhere in the middle, it's not going to be seen. Of course, there will be no flowers all summer long, but I have other flowers around that are growing right now. They're still small, but they're gonna grow and they will give some shade to the plant. So we will see. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you give it a try, and don't be sad if you don't have success from the very first time. It's all a great experience, and we're here to have fun. Lots of love, guys. Happy gardening.